I'm Teresa Carraggio, and this is Third Paradigm. My title today is Mystic Hooks and Sandy Rivers. Do we think that will fool the YouTube censors? I'll be talking about fishy accounts of recent drownings and sketchy accounts from a decade ago of school shootings. And just for fun and good measure, let's throw in a Las Vegas massacre. Let's do this. One of the most fearless researchers on Substack belies her cute and harmless name, Kitten Seeking Answers. In this one, she is following her feline detective nose for a scent around mystic hooks, as we're calling it. Let's see what Kitten found under the couch. This is from an article that she posted called Mystic Mafia, and what she's quoting is something that was published in July 2011 in the Texas Monthly by Mimi Schwartz called The Not So Happy Camper. It reads, "The camp has always served as a near-flawless training ground for archetypal Texas women. For the current fee of $43.75 for a 30-day session, which is now $6K a month, Mystic girls learn to shoot rifles, ride horses, catch bass, hike in the August sun without complaint, and face down a rattlesnake or two. In blistering tribe competitions, campers are divided into Kiowas and Tonkawas. They learn the value of teamwork. Among line of notable alumni reveals the kind of girl that Mystic attracts. Mary Martin, who famously played a sprightly, tirelessly cheerful boy, was the first celebrity camper. She was followed by the daughters of Governors Price Daniel, Dan Moody, and John Connolly. LBJ's daughters and granddaughters and great-granddaughters attended. James Baker sent a daughter and a granddaughter. Laura Bush worked as a counselor between terms at Southern Methodist University. Mystic girls say their camp days prepare them for the real world. They become executives for Neiman Marcus, dance with London's Royal Ballet, own a Gymboree franchise in the former Soviet Union, or marry well and become the kind of intensely focused volunteers who would probably be happier as CEOs. But most importantly, Mystic girls make friendships that last forever. Not only do they form a mystic mafia that stretches all over the world, but they also help one another get into Kappa Kappa Gamma at the University of Texas, the Junior League, and if need be, a clinical trial at MD Anderson. These bonds are forged in no small part by the history and ethos of the camp itself. The current incarnation of Mystic was founded on the eve of World War II by Agnes Stacy and has been owned by the same family for 3 generations. The Eastland siblings were once partners, but as the camp and the land it sits on increased in value, they began quarreling over the usual things, money and power. When the parents are not alive to keep things in line, many times it all goes to heck, said Arnold. That is an understatement. The case has raged on for 4 years and has cost the parties in excess of $6 million in legal fees, and this was in 2011. It involves accusations most people would never dream of hurling at a sibling: fraud, malpractice, and especially greed. Hanging in the balance are Dick and Tweety's reputation as the financial and ethical stewards of a Texas institution, what they call the mission and ministry of Mystic, and Stacy's reputation as one of the country's finest trust and estate planners. Not to mention the future of Camp Mystic itself. The whole group of them ought to be taken into the woodshed and spanked till they come up with a settlement, one longtime Kerrville attorney told me. The Eastlands put a high premium on 2 things: making money and avoiding taxes. By the mid to late 80s, camps across the nation were confronting the very expensive problem of personal injury suits. Suddenly, a camper accident, or worse, a camper death, could spell ruin. Something had to be done. Kitten then links Petra Livornia, who is the PsyOps detective, and she's done 2 different articles. One, Are We Being Told the Truth About the Guadalupe River Flood, July 4th, and then also looking at the parallels with 9/11. One of those parallels is that Mickey Willis always shows up. At 9/11, he was handing out sandwiches to the firefighters. They said, "Let's go down there. Those guys must be hungry." And so they raided all the delis around. They had the best cold cuts, but all those firefighters wanted was peanut butter and jelly because that was the comfort food. Because when they did the roll call and half of the names weren't showing up, they needed that kind of comfort. Come on, really? She also looks at Mickey Willis, of course, being first out with Plandemic, and I would also add being partners with Robert Malone and filming his The Most Dangerous Doctor in the World, which I think was something that really backfired. People didn't like that he was doing this little ego trip. And also, I would add, Mickey Willis was there on January 6th at the Capitol. He was at another medical freedom movement event and then saw something happening and so rushed over there with his camera and somehow did not get arrested. So this seems very convenient to me. Mickey, along with his wife, interviews the parents of a girl who has died. And it's very interesting that his wife always stays in the frame. She is always bookending the dad who is speaking and patting him and looking compassionate. And why? Why, if you're interviewing the parents, would you always keep your wife in the frame? In this, it is the hokiest and worst crisis acting performance that I've seen since the Project Veritas Pfizer expose. They cannot remember their lines. They are so stiff and wooden. At one point, the dad wipes a tear, but he's not crying. And then he tries to work himself up to crying, but he's clearly very composed. They're remembering what their daughter was like and how nice she was and how she always made art for them. And these are not people who have just experienced the worst trauma and tragedy that could befall any parent. My bullshit meter was ringing off the hook. They also have an odd way of staging them. They look like they're from American Gothic, except for the pitchfork, and maybe kind of a white trash version. The guy has a bad comb over. He's wearing a white t-shirt like I'm just a working guy. And then the mom is in a prairie dress with a white shawl and then little granny glasses. So I don't think this screams we are people who send our daughter to $6,000 a month camps to be a little aristocrat. And then he's very flowery when he talks about we just want to be there for other people who have lost someone because that's all you can do when you're in this state to make it better. It makes no sense whatsoever because I know what happens when people lose someone, and it is not that. Another video that Petra dissects is Angel on This Earth. Family reunites with hero who saved them. And this is NBC News. Petra writes, in this interview, the reporter asked the angel, Matthew, what prompted you to go and check in on that family? Matthew, it was a gut feeling. I had intended on leaving and going home and enjoying the rest of my day. Reporter to Chrissy, the mom. What went through your head when you heard a stranger screaming at your home in the middle of the night? If it was the middle of the night, how could Matthew have been thinking about enjoying the rest of his day? Also in the middle of the night, there were signs of rain and flooding, and there had been warnings, so the scenario of a stranger screaming at one's home doesn't really fit. And the route of escape also sounds strange. Over the chain link fence to their pickup truck, and then from the pickup truck to their neighbor's yard. And I will add, they ask Matthew, so how did you get them out of the house? Tell us the steps. And he said, well, I just knew I had to get them out. So I just got them out. I had to get them out of that house before it fell down. And so I got them out. And then when they talk about the dog, which they feature prominently, and they say, oh, and they saved the dog. And how did the dog get out? They say, oh, well, actually, there were 4. Okay, so this mom does not look like she is in any shape to be climbing a chain link fence, but all of them, she and the 3 kids, would have had to climb over that fence carrying a dog. How in the world did that happen? And then why do you get into the pickup truck and then get out of the pickup truck rather than driving away from the flood and go into the neighbor's yard? It makes no sense whatsoever. Petra continues. The reporter then asks about Chrissy's daughter slipping and says, I think her name's Dove. Chrissy replies with a different name, who nearly went down the river with my car. Her brother dove. So the brother's name is Dove. Really? Petra also looks at a common trope between 9/11 and the Guadalupe River, which is the first day on the job hero, and how on 9/11, a guy whose first day it was on the job grounded 4,000 planes, saving lives, and then someone on his first day in the job of a rescue mission saved 165 girls. Now, he was coming from a place that makes no sense for him to have been traveling from in order to get there in time to save a drowning swimmer. You don't exactly have time to be flying in, but he is taking heroic pictures and looks like he's going to be running for Congress. Petra also links Miles Mathis, who has done a deep dive into the Freemasonic imagery that is in the camp itself and also in the reporting. These are things that if you take them individually, you would say, oh, come on, is that too much? But when you put them all together, I don't think there's any way to deny it. One of the anomalies he talks about is what makes this part of the current story even more suspicious. One of the 27 who allegedly died at Mystic wasn't a camp girl. It was this same Dick Eastland himself, age 70. He allegedly drowned trying to save the girls. Not really believable, since in a separate story we're told the National Guard and Coast Guard were there with helicopters, saving upwards of 250 girls. So there was no reason for a fat 70-year-old guy to be swimming around trying to rescue able-bodied girls. Was he an ex-Olympic swimmer? Nope. And then, since they weren't on the coast, there was no reason for the Coast Guard to have been there and be ready to do these heroic rescues. I'll end this segment with one more video that Petra dissects, which is ABC News' Hero Dad left goodbye voicemails to kids before dying in Texas floods. So the reporter says to his son, his voicemail's also what helped you save other members of your family. And Jake says, it's actually a bit twisted, the story, that is, because it wasn't me. I've been up here watching my sister. It was his stepmother, my stepmother, her brother, and her mom that were up here. They were in a cabin about 100 yards up, and my dad made the call to them early in the morning, just seeing if there was anything they could do to help. And at this point, it was too late, but he did save one last life on top of the many that he saved throughout his long life, so it was a great way for him to go out. My stepmom's brother has been nothing but helpful. He searched for Dad. He searched for Tanya. He was just down there helping any way he could. And he just got back up and brought the dog back to us. We're just happy to have Chloe with us here. So you see them with Chloe, and they make a big deal of, oh, yeah, we lost our dad. Yeah, we lost our stepmom, but we've got Chloe, and that means so much to us. And they were able to recover my stepmom's phone, so that's good too. So it was a great way for him to go. All of these end up being twisted, and there are all these different anomalies that get pointed out by Petra. So these are stories that do not add up. And I think we need to be careful anytime we see something that is tugging at our heartstrings like this. Now let's go to 2012, where we have the benefit of hindsight and look at Sandy hook, line, and sinker. One of the videos that I have linked in my Substack came from Glenn Greenwald, and this is 10 minutes of Robbie Parker getting into character before a CNN interview. So you see the aggrieved father of a 6-year-old who died, who is joking with the cameraman, who's got this banter going, and then they're ready to roll, and you see him take on this persona. This is important to note. I also have some different links of people who have done a deep dive. Germ Warfare and Jim Fetzer on the Sandy Hook cover-up, and Stop, Look, Think on unraveling Sandy Hook in 2, 3, 4, and 5 dimensions. The last is an odd connection. I was in my hometown of Cumberland, Maryland, in my favorite dive bar, and about to leave when a woman came and sat next to me. We started talking, and it turns out that she was a citizen journalist who had done a book on Sandy Hook. And so this is Stephanie Sledge, and hers is The Missing Information About the Most Egregious Lie Ever Foisted on the American Public. An exclusive release of never-seen-before evidence, including the author's guided tour through the complex connections behind the Sandy Hook shooting story. So there is a lot of new information and connections, and I am grateful that I stayed and got another drink. Another person common to Mystic River and Sandy Hook is Alex Jones. And he's saying that this was a manufactured weather weapon. There are many of those going on, but I don't think they involve the great-granddaughters of presidents and future aristocrats. Do you? My last link is Amy Sukwan with False Flags analyzing the 2017 Las Vegas massacre. To follow up with manufactured crises and false flags and fake events, here is Maui and the Oligarchs, which has a commonality with the Las Vegas police chief who was also first day on the job in Maui, and then Drowning Appalachia and how Hurricane Helene made room for a Tesla lithium mine. Thank you for watching.